Well, hello there. I think it's probably time to start this webinar this afternoon, which is an introduction into our new program at St Mary's University, the BA in Liberal Arts. My name's Mark Griffin. I'm the head of Humanities and Creative Industries at St Mary's. And I'm here really to introduce that program to you and to take any questions that you might have about it as they occur to you, or you may already have questions to ask about it. In which case, on the screens through which you're watching this, there is a Q&A button. If you click down on that, you can type in your question. We do have James, who's working behind the scenes. He'll answer some of the questions that may come up that you may wish to ask. Otherwise, I'll try and answer them once I've done this initial presentation, and hopefully by the end of the presentation and by the end of the Q&A, everyone will have had all of their questions answered about this program. So the BA Liberal Arts, as I said, it's a new program. It's a program that we're very, very pleased to bring into our portfolio at St Mary's, and I think it couldn't be there couldn't be a more opportune time really for us to start to explore what the liberal arts is. It's a program really that explores what it means to be human, and when we talk about what it means to be human, what it means to be human in the full potential of that idea. So what is it that humans have managed to achieve so far in their history? What have they achieved across cultures, across time? What is it that they've aspired to do, and how have they done it? And through that exploration, we look across the broad disciplines. So not just what have we achieved scientifically, what have we achieved medically, but what have we achieved through our art and our culture? And what does that tell us about ourselves? What does that tell us about our ancestors? And what, I suppose, ultimately, does that help us see as possibilities for our future? So the BA Liberal Arts really is the exploration of the idea of humanity. I'll just try and click this slide on. One of the core things that we look at, I think, during the programme is to go across disciplines. So it's not something where you just focus on something to do with history or to do with English literature or to do with art or to do with culture necessarily. It is a course that allows you really to flow across several different ideas and maybe make the connections between those ideas so that you start to get a really rounded understanding of where we've been, what we're doing now, and where we're going. And you'll see from the images that I've chosen on this slide that that's a huge range of things that we might look at. We might look at dance, we might look at music, we might look at art, we might look at religious beliefs, at rituals, at the way in which we have marked time in our own lives and in the lives of our communities. We might look at performance pieces. We might look at the way in which we have made sense of scientific concepts, the way the sun rises, the way that the seasons pass. We might look at those kind of ideas and start to really understand through the way in which different artists and different thinkers, different philosophers have interpreted their worlds, some common ideas about what it might mean to be human. We're also very interested in the things that conflict us as human beings. So although there may be common ideas to ourselves as human beings, we know full well that through time we've had conflict, we've had war, we've had genocide, we've had huge clashes of cultural ideas that are ongoing and will continue, I think, to inform our understanding of what it means to be human and what it means to be part of our species and our race. So the program looks at all of these very broad ideas, really, and starts to explore what the links are between these things, how we can make those connections, how we can understand and communicate to each other what it is that unites us and, as I say, divides us equally. So one of the key concepts, I think, to the liberal arts is the idea of chronology, and the idea really that things that have happened to us in the past can perhaps repeat in different forms, and perhaps then give us ways in which we might explore the future. So although at the moment I'm broadcasting to you from my own house, I've been in lockdown as most of us have been for the best part of 2 months. And I'm living a completely strange and rather surreal experience out, something that's never happened to me before in my life, as I'm sure is the case with everybody else. There are links between this time and periods of our history where we've equally suffered from the arrival of a pandemic in our community or in our society. So there are things that we could look at from the past to see how not just how science has responded, but how we as human beings have responded. What are the cultural things that we've done to give ourselves solace, to sustain ourselves, to understand what it is that we're going through, and perhaps how we might respond when things, I don't say return, but move towards a new normality, perhaps, for us all. So the liberal arts really takes chronology very seriously. It looks at the way in which history might teach us ideas about the cultures that we're living in now. And then perhaps moving forward, looks at ways in which in the future, what's happened to us and what continues to happen to us might present new ways in which we can live, we can communicate, and we can share the common humanity that we all have. So there really is this sense, I think, within the liberal arts of trying to find a sense of continuity and through line through our experience, through our narratives, and through our stories, so that we can really make sense of who we are and the experiences that we're part of. The liberal arts degree works in two separate ways. We have two different ways to deliver the degree. The first way is as we do with many of the programs at St Mary's, is over an orthodox 3 years, with each year consisting of 2 semesters. So traditionally at St Mary's, an undergraduate degree starts in September and runs through to December as a first semester, and the second semester runs from January to May, and you repeat that over 3 years to get your degree. And you can do that with the liberal arts. You can work over 3 years in that way. But we also have a very special way of looking at this degree, which is as a 2-year accelerated degree. And for the students who want to come onto the accelerated degree, there may be many reasons why that would appeal. We do follow the first 2 semesters again. So you do the September to December, you do the January to May, but then in each of the 2 years that you're with us, you attend a 6-week summer school. So rather than having an extended vacation, if you like, over the summer, you come back into our beautiful campus, back to Strawberry Hill, which is a beautiful place to spend any time of year, but the summer especially. And you work intensely for 6 weeks on specialized projects and modules and ideas. And that means you cover the same amount of ground, you do the same amount of modules, you do the same amount of credits as students going over the 3-year degree, but it's more intense. So for students who perhaps are, for whatever reason, in a hurry to get their qualification, and who are committed and invested, because it's hard work, it's really hard work to do 3 sessions in a year, the 2-year degree may help. There's also a slight reduction in the overall fee that you have to pay if you take a 2-year degree. And it, of course, enables you perhaps to get into the job market more quickly. It perhaps enables you to get onto further study more quickly, should that be something that you're interested in doing. And it gives just a slightly different rhythm to your learning. I sit here as somebody who will run both degrees, so I refuse to say that one is superior to the other in any way at all. It really is about your taste, and it really is about where you sit in your life and what you want to do. Whether you want to take that traditional university experience of an undergraduate degree over 3 years and really think about the way in which the summer might interplay with your study. For some people, the summer is a very important time to earn the additional money needed to come back into university. Or you may want to go faster, and you may say, well, actually, I can get through these 2 years more quickly, and then I'm in a position to earn money the other side. I should also say the 6-week summer school is interesting because you'll be working with new students. It's open to international students, and we're rather hoping that from all over the world, students may, restrictions allowing, come to London and work with us on special projects over those 6 weeks. So although you'll work very closely with a cohort of students in the regular semesters, that final 6 weeks, it kind of throws it all up in the air again, and you meet new people, work with new ideas, hopefully meet a lot of very interesting people from all over the world who will stimulate you just as you may stimulate them with your own perspectives and your own thoughts about culture, art, and the humanities in general. So those are the two delivery patterns, I should say, for the way in which you might take the degree. Another focus of the liberal arts degree is on employability. And in some ways, the humanities in general, which is the area that I'm most passionately connected to, and the area that I think is so valuable for students to learn about, is sometimes portrayed as being indulgent, that actually who needs more people who can read books, and who needs more people who can go to museums, and who needs more people who are just interested in culture rather than commerce or rather than manufacture. And the answer to that really is that we work very much as an industry. There are 3 industries, I think, that feed directly into the liberal arts. And those industries are the heritage industry. We're fascinated by our past. We're fascinated by our ancestors. We're fascinated by understanding how they lived, what they decided to do, the decisions they took. And that can be familial history, it can be our direct ancestors, or it can be our cultural history, or it can even be the history of our species. All of those things seem fascinating to us. So heritage institutions and the heritage industry are very important to us. Then cultural institutions and culture. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to have a culture? What is human culture? How do we recognize each other through culture? So culture is another industry that we look at very, very closely on the degree. And finally, the creative industries. And that can be anything from the performing arts through to the creation of video games, or the publishing of books, or working in the media and the digital sections as a designer, or as a content manager. So we're looking very much at those 3 areas: heritage, culture, and the creative. And as part of the degree, everybody is given a placement, an 8-week placement, which we work on with you early to help us identify with you the kind of areas you might want to explore in the future. And being based in London, we have access to so many fantastic organisations and institutions and places to work with. And what we do is each student is given a placement in a cultural or a creative or a heritage institution, and works there for 8 weeks, developing special projects which we work on with that institution and with you as part of the programme. So what we're trying to do, as well as give you the knowledge and the scholarship that you might need, so learning about these things around history and literature and art and politics, we're also trying to embed you within the networks that may, once you graduate, offer you the opportunity to get a good job, and to start to build a career. We're very interested in understanding how this particular degree might lead you to a career that sustains you. And because it's in an area where that we hope you love, we hope you're interested in literature, we hope you're interested in history, we think in a way that gives you the chance of having a life that's full of opportunities, but is also very, very enjoyable to stay curious within, and to stay looking and exploring and creating as you move forward after university. So our work is very much linked to industry and employability. We're not simply studying art for art's sake. We're trying to understand how it has an impact on people's lives, and how it works as a set of industries that engage and employ and collaboratively help create the cultures and the creative outputs of the future. That's very, very important to us. So just to finish this presentation, and then I'll take questions if any have come up through the webinar, just to break down how it works in practice. So in the first semester of the first year, which is common to both the 2-year programme and to the 3-year programme, students take 2 core modules. The first one is Reason, Evidence and Argument, which is really a grounding in philosophy and a grounding in logic, and helps to understand a little bit the way in which humans have used words and ideas and concepts to demonstrate, to prove, to put forward their ideas, to make sense of the world around them. So really it's a module that looks at language, but it also looks at the way in which we've conceptualized language in order to understand each other and to demonstrate to each other meaning and value as well. And the second module that we ask you all to take in the first year is called Rethinking Modernity. And that's really an exploration of recent culture, so 20th century culture in particular, and 21st century culture. And it asks you really to look at different ways of looking at that period of time, and to rethink the way in which we might understand some of the key events, which could be historical events, but also the key events as in terms of cultural events that have happened within the lifetime, possibly of our parents and our grandparents, and really begin to frame and understand what that might mean to us. So those are the 2 core modules that we look at in the first semester. Then as students, you get to choose from a huge menu of options, far too many to list here, over 20 different options. But they come from these core groups. So it could be that you choose a module from the history menu, or the politics menu, English literature menu, the creative media menu, the creative writing menu, or the theology menu. And in a way, that's the first indication that we might have in terms of your choices, of the direction in which you want to engage your learning and shape your learning a little bit. And like I say, there are a huge number of choices to choose from there, a huge number of modules to choose from there. And it enables you, I think, to just start to shape the way in which you see the degree, and balance that with the 2 core modules. In the second semester, and again, this is the another semester, it's the January to May semester, where students both on the 2-year accelerated pathway and the 3-year pathway share the second semester. And we look at the public role of the liberal arts as a core module. And that's really the first time we foray out into London and beyond London to look at the way in which the liberal arts, these ideas of culture, of history, of humanity, are disseminated publicly through places like museums, through galleries, through performing arts venues. And what is the value? What is the value, and what's the social value? Now, one of the things that's quite interesting about this is when we wrote this degree, we had no idea about COVID-19, and we had no idea that we would see such a radical change of the idea of what public art might be in such a quick time frame, in such a quick turnover. So this module is going to be so interesting when we run it in January. I don't even know whether we're going to be able to run it socially. We may be running it remotely. We may be running it in all kinds of ways. But what's fascinating about it is a new settlement is going to have to be made, I think, about the way in which we communicate to each other publicly. It's going to be much harder for everybody to turn up at a theatre and watch an event. It's going to be different. I'm going to say, I'm just choosing my word carefully here. It's going to be a very different experience, I think, going to a gallery or to a museum than it has been so far. I think we're more aware of each other in public space than we've ever been before. So what's the role of the liberal arts there? How does that work? And are there new ways in which we share our ideas and thoughts? Until January, I'd never had a Zoom call, and now I have 2 or 3 every day. And what does that mean in terms of me sharing information? Even this session that I'm giving to you now, a year ago, we would have all been sitting in a lecture theatre, perhaps at St Mary's University, and I would be able to see the whites of your eyes, and you'd be able to see the way in which I'm presenting, and we'd have been in a social space together, a visceral space. That's changing. So how's it changing? What are the potentials? What are the futures? Will all be examined really on that module. And it's perhaps a module that even between now and when we first deliver it in January, may be rewritten several times in terms of its content and in terms of the big issues that we need to discuss in order to move it forward. I think that's kind of fascinating part of this degree. And then you also take 2 options. You remember in the first semester you took 1 option. In the second semester, you get to choose 2 module options from the menu. And again, you can see the list of broad disciplines there: politics, English literature, creative media, creative writing, theology, history. So you get to choose 2 options. And again, that means over the first year, if you're on a 3-year degree, your first and second semester, you've had 3 core modules and 3 options. So we're leading you, we're guiding you, we're giving you some conceptual scaffolding from which to build your ideas and your understandings about the humanities and about the liberal arts. But we're giving you some freedom as well to shape and to bring in scholarship from other disciplines. And hoping very much, in fact, we're not just hoping, we're sure of this, that what that means is that the connections between the choices you make and the ideas that we're putting forward will create new knowledge and new understandings. The hybridity of the work that we do will ensure that. And I think you'll come out with a very unique experience depending on how those 2 elements interact. I'm just, to finish off, going to show how the summer school works for students who wanted to take the 2-year program. So everything that you've seen up to now would be in common between the first year, between the 2-year program and the 3-year program. That would be the common first year. If you were taking the 2-year program, having done those first 2 semesters, you'd come back to us in June for 6 weeks during June and early July, and you choose 3 out of 4 from these modules. And they give a real sense, I think, of being in London, of being part of St Mary's, and of being part of an international community looking at art and culture over the summer. So we look at aesthetics, the philosophy of art, which is a really fascinating topic, and really underpins all of the way in which we understand taste and quality and value and interpretation, and as well as all the kind of coded signs that art may give to us. And really how we understand beauty and what beauty might mean to us, whether it's a subjective concept, whether there is a more objective sense of that, and how do we understand all of those ideas. And then we look at 3 areas, really, and if you look at these, there's a chronology to these: Renaissance London, looking particularly at the late Tudor period in London, from Enlightenment to Romanticism, so then looking further into early modern history in that way, and then Popular Culture in the Arts and Humanities, which is a course that really looks at the 20th and 21st century, but looks at the kind of arts that have become more democratized than perhaps the high art that we consider to have been prevalent in perhaps earlier historical times. So looking at popular music, looking at popular art, looking at community work as well in the arts and humanities. So in a way, if you're coming on the summer school, you have to drop one of those. You choose one that you're maybe not so interested in and focus on 3. And that's how we get through the first year. So I think that's pretty much it for the presentation part of this. I'm really happy. I'm going to go now and have a look to see if anyone's posed any questions, and I'll try and answer those. But otherwise, thank you so much for your time, for tuning into the webinar. Please do drop me a line, Mark.Griffin at stmarys.ac.uk if there's anything else that you want to discuss. And lovely to see you. Thanks very much.